first artist that I would say I would listen to on repeat would definitely be Sonny Moore, which is now an AKA known as Skrillex. I remember listening to his music in middle school with some Skull Candies on. That was on repeat and on my way to school in the hallways. It was new coming up, and it was a lot of screeching and banging noises, which at that age you're super hyper, always wanted to run around, and now that was me as a kid. And that definitely inspired my music, I'd say my taste for music as I grew up. And I still listen to him today, and he's still producing a lot of music. So I'd say him. Evolving over time, listening to that, it definitely got me into EDM in general. And I had many cousins that were a lot older than me, about 5 to 10 year age gap. And that's when EDM started coming around here in the US. And I would always want to be hanging out with them, be with the older kids. And what they were listening to was starting to go into more of like house music, deep house. And that got me really into almost wanting to be a producer. And then as that progressed, I started really getting heavily into like subgenres, and to now there's a lot of tech house that I'm really into. There is I'd say almost influence with like Latin house. A lot of that stuff was just my culture. I'm Hispanic, so that's definitely influenced me into that direction of mainly listening to house music. Although I do listen to many other genres, house music is where it's at for me. My name's Alexander Ochoa, and I like photography, and I take photos sometimes.
What do you create?
I create images, photos that hopefully last a lifetime for other people, even myself. When I go out with friends and family, I was the person that would always want to take pictures with every type of camera, trying to take pictures of my siblings, my dogs, animals, and we would compile it into an album, and that was the best part, looking at the images. So that's what I do. My style represents when people say you want to capture the moment, like a candid image. I try to aim for that. In addition to like how it looks, I'd say very high contrast, but that's been evolving over time, especially as people look back into like film re-emerging. People love the way that old images look. So I've been trying to implement that into my work, adding film grain and making the images look worse, but ends up actually looking a lot better, and trying to imitate film and how stuff was shot back in the day with old cameras, ones you'd have to wind up. So making digital images look like film. Good question. I'd say, honestly, my mom probably inspires me a lot. As I grew older and she's pulled out albums of photos when I was a kid or our family, that made me look at taking photos differently. It's funny that I say like I was inspired, like I really want to always take photos. I think that happened later in my life. But earlier on, I was always the kid to be like, I don't want to take a photo. Why are we taking photos? Why are we stopping here? And my mom would always say like, you'll know later, you'll know later. And now that I'm a little bit older, looking at those images, I'm so glad we took the moment to take the images, or even the images that were taken of me not knowing. Those are the best ones. And it brings back memories that when you look at it, it's almost like watching a video, and it places you back into that spot where you were at. So that's the best part about taking photos and having images that you can look back on. I think the vanity of it, taking images of like people or even yourself, is somewhat vain, or looking at it's kind of egotistical, having the nicest images. But I think the images tell more of a story of like when it was taken, the type of person you were. I know maybe like 5 years ago, I have some portraits of myself, and I just remember just looking at the image itself. Yes, it's a head-on straightforward, but because it's of myself, I can see in my own eyes of what I was going through and the moment in time of what I was struggling with and what I was achieving and what I was happy about. And I see it encapsulated all in one image. But that takes a little bit more of like, you really look into the image itself. And I think I try to capture that in people as well.
As a photographer, what do you do that no one else can?
I think I can bring out the the most candid, authentic version of someone in the moment. Most people are very camera shy and have a problem being seen. And I've always felt that way. So I understand being behind the camera and being in front of it is really hard. It's completely different. But many tricks that I use is I try to have a conversation with someone behind the camera, and as we're talking, I'm taking photos of them. Or I'll say, 1, 2, 3, cheese. 1, 2, 3, cheese. Keep smiling. Don't smile. Smile. And they're like, what are you doing? And then that's when the real smile comes out. And I'm really good at capturing that in people and trying to get that out of them without feeling embarrassed or shy about being seen. And those are the images that really like stand out. What keeps me going to take photos is that eventually we will all pass away. And the only things that'll be left is the stuff that you created. And those images will last forever. You say like even Steve Jobs, the image of him, the classic one, right? People look back at that image and that was just a moment in time. Someone took the photo and that's what people think about when they see that person. I try to encapsulate that in the images I take of myself and other people, and hopefully one of those images will be the one that people remember you by. I'll go with this one. I like the album art on this one.
Why does it stand out to you?
I chose this one just because it's using a lot of natural lighting and it looks like it's shot maybe on film. Looking at it too, like when I first started like taking photos, I didn't have any lighting equipment. So I used natural lighting as much as I could. Honestly, for the first 3 years, I didn't have any flash. I didn't have any knowledge of it. So using like, at least looking at the image here, he's using Rembrandt lighting, which is just a classic like film technique to go ahead and highlight the subject. They use it perfectly here, and then having a smoke or cigarette, having the smoke come up gives it a super artistic kind of feel. And then him looking off as a be candid. So I try to imitate a lot of these. I actually shot a lot of similar images, which anytime I show people, I would be most excited about shooting that. So that really stood out to me. All right, this one stands out a lot. Reason being, at a certain point in my photography career, I didn't like to edit my images with color because it took too long. So I was inspired by shooting everything in black and white. Kind of a cope, but what I did learn about shooting in black and white is that it's actually more complex than people think. It's all lighting, and with lighting, I figured out I didn't have a flash. So that's when I started experimenting with buying flashes and like learning about lighting. So this image is really cool to me because it has multiple people in the image. Everyone's doing something different, looking off. It includes the style or my candid style, where I try to get people in the act, not necessarily looking straight into the lens, which is really nice. And then it has a lot of characteristics. There's some stuff in the foreground. Looks like maybe they were having like a party or like maybe a little kickback. And it just represents pretty much something I would shoot similar. When I try to go out with friends, whenever we try to take images, I try to do it in secret while everyone's not looking. So it literally looks exactly what I would, some stuff that I would shoot. Maybe not exactly, but this one's a little more staged, but it definitely inspires me a lot. Well, kind of what I used to shoot. So I chose these 3 album covers. What stands out with the first one, again, or honestly with all 3, just to begin with, they all, because they're a little older, has that vintage look to it. This one in particular stood out a little bit more to me just because of how much blur is added to it. And the image, honestly, objectively, like, it's not clinically sharp at all. It is very almost blurred. It looks like there's an effect maybe thrown in it, maybe in camera. And when I first started with photography, I tried to learn how to do everything in camera without having to do any type of edit because I didn't have a laptop. So I ended up learning how to do something similar. You can still do it after post-production, but I really like the implementation. It's probably shot in camera because of how old it was. Yeah, that one's great for that one. The middle option here, It's really focused. It's really like zoomed in a lot, which the focal length for most people, like people shoot with a really wide angle lens, usually on their phones. You get an image similar to that when you zoom in super heavy, and that gives you a really candid look at someone's face and facial features, which when I started getting into portrait photography, was really fun, because that's when I started getting into editing, because you can't really change a lot of colors in people's faces. They'll start looking weird. So here it's really nice because everything's a little softer. It's really focused on, it looks like the women mainly, and then the eyes of the people, and it looks like the colors are popping. So when you look at an image, you immediately are drawn to the person's eyes, which say a lot. And again, they'll look off into it, so it's a candid shot, which I like a lot. This last one here, looking directly straight into the camera. This one's really cool just because the whole background is completely black. So it's your only thing you're focused on is the person and the guitar. It looks like he's about to perform. More recently, my images, I've been using a lot of flash, which gets rid of the background and mainly just focuses on whatever you're shooting. So if it could be a picture of a bottle, something in your hand, a watch. This one happens to be just so the guy's looking straight dead into your eyes, which gives a feeling of like, oh damn, he's about to sing to me maybe. So it tells a lot of like story. You're kind of thinking of like, what is he actually looking at? Is there a crowd in front of him? Is he just performing in front of one person, a girl maybe? I don't know. It could go anywhere, and that's what that image speaks out to me. It could literally mean anything, or what he's looking at behind the camera. What he's actually looking at in the crowd. And collectively, they all have that vintage look, which I love a lot, which I've been trying to implement into my work. Yeah. What inspires me is seeing other people excited about their own work. When I first started shooting photos, I originally wanted to go into shooting a bunch of videos, which I bought a whole camera for, mic and everything. And when I was on a shoot, I saw a photographer come by and was actually taking behind the scenes shots. And what I noticed, I didn't even consider taking photos. I mainly wanted to get into videos because I wanted to be a YouTuber. But seeing him excited about the work made me excited about wanting to get into it. And that kind of snowballs into today, where right now I'm in a little bit of a creative rut, but seeing other people excited about their work, or even seeing people just starting their creative journey, whether it's in cameras or music, that kind of refuels the fire of like, it can get back to that. Because it comes in waves of like, I'm feeling super creative and excited about my work, and then feeling a little negative about it. So seeing other people excited about how they're going to progress, or them taking their work and then showing me and seeing their face light up, I see themselves, or I see myself in them, which is cool. So that definitely inspires me. I'm currently working on putting my technical skills in like making images for businesses. So I'm hopefully starting a marketing agency to help businesses market themselves better within the social media landscape. I want people to feel excited, not necessarily moved, but curious on how the shot was made. It's always cool to see someone curious, excited, like, oh, that's a really cool photo, but also like, hey, how did you take that? Whether it was shot in camera or how it was edited. That's always the best moment, especially seeing it from other creatives who already know a lot of the tricks of the trade, and they're confused on how you got a photo or how you edited something. That's always great. The shooting process is always the most fun, mainly because you get to be either with a group of people, you're with your subjects, whatever you're shooting. Something that's super fun to shoot that I've been doing a little bit less frequently, but I want to get more into, is shooting cars. At one point I was shooting for a car club, and I got to ride in the cars, seeing everyone excited about their vehicles and going fast and getting moving images and rollers of vehicles is always really fun. The post-production is the most challenging when it comes to taking any type of video or still image. There is no right answer of what it should be or what it should look like, and it's all subjective too. There's objectively bad edits, right? You take something a little too far in one direction with colors, or they're neon, and it's not meant to be that. So that there's no right answer to it. That's the most difficult and like hard thing or hard pill to swallow when you get into it, because there's no right answer, and that's kind of annoying. Coming in here for the first time, I usually honestly don't go to record stores, but coming in here and seeing all the album work, which is mainly what I mainly focus on looking at when it comes to going in any type of music or imagery, seeing all the album covers placed right in front and center, and being able to just look around and seeing images that I might not have even noticed without walking in here is great. And then seeing some of the genres that I might not even have considered of even listening to, even though I don't have a record player, I can always look at them after the fact. But seeing it physically and be able to hold it, and being more curious about like how do you actually like play this thing? How does a record player look? That was great. So I would recommend anyone to come in here and to come check it out, especially if you don't think you might not be interested in it. Just come in and take a look. You might be interested in even the artwork and holding it and placing that up, and might not even playing the song, or might start getting interested in maybe I want to play this thing, which is kind of cool. Considering what I would bring, it would definitely be looking at images and seeing if it would even be considered like an album cover, like worthy. When I take images, I don't necessarily think that way, and I guess that's another creative way to look at something. I'd say it's taking a step back, and instead of firing off a bunch of like 20 different digital images, slightly different angle, really slowing down, similar to film, and trying to think of like, hey, maybe this would look good as a hero image, and slowing down and making sure images, or the majority of my images, look like that instead of flashing out a whole bunch of them. I think it goes back to the roots when everything was physical, when it goes like CDs or vinyl back in the day. Everything is moved digital, but when you physically see something, same thing with images, tying it back to like what I do. When you print something out, a lot of things stay in people's camera rolls and they don't ever get printed. I think it's almost the same thing when you see something physically, especially when it comes to music, and be able to put it down and play it. It's a different experience. I remember being in my sister's car growing up, and she had CDs and she would put it in, and it's like you would have to look through a whole bunch of stuff and like, where am I going to pick? And now everything's just done digitally with the scroll. It gives it a different vibe for sure. Yeah. Where you can find me, mainly on Instagram at Alex Ochoa, the number 1. And lasting thoughts, take more photos, especially of your family. You'll thank me later. Shout out to Idu House. Stay tuned, more things on the way.